that your problem is gonna be there's no place to put the end of the bridge where the slide went, because it's just, that's just gonna go and go and go. So that, you know, you might be lucky and build another bridge there, but last a while. You're gonna have a winter as we've had before, 2 inches of rain in the day a number of times, and it's gonna come down. So it's just not safe.
Yeah.
So that, right, that trail, it's too big, I love it, kids love to run.
Yeah.
So, and
I wanted to
Get
put
the
it
vertical
on.
going.
I know. Try it out. Wood stuff. Problem is there, if you think of what it would cost to bring down wood, take all that out.
And rebuild all that, yeah,
That's why we've gotten bids of $50,000 to $70,000. Who knows?
right, yeah.
So I think it's, you have to say to yourself, those are two trails that we'd love to have, but they're just not here.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yes.
and I'm not so sure how much the state would be happy if we were to pay the money. to
Sure,
do it,
fix it, right?
but we don't have any money.
That's right.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. It's 6:30 and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a quorum, so.
Shall we start?
We can bring, should I bring these books in?
Sure.
Okay. Wanted me to save some photos, but I. Like those photos, but.
I'm trying, Kevin.
And I'll check for Stacy because she said she was gonna be virtual.
What's the progress with the director
There you are, still working through that process.
recruiting?
Will be probably in the future. They wanted to give us some time, you know. Let's be more.
Nice to meet you.
I'm gonna call it back.
I think we're gonna be relegated there.
Oh, we were just moving down.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Go ahead.
How you doing?
Okay.
Just like one.
Well, it's good to learn that was.
Information down.
Since we have so many people, shall we just do board introduction and then have people introduce them when we get to community comments?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm ready to start whenever she's ready.
Oh, wait, sorry, let me record.
I know. I'm waiting for you to say it's okay, Tara. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, go, let's start. I'll call it to order. I'm John Lemon, I'm one of the co-chair of the Hidden Springs area.
So we're going to introduce the board members, and, staff. And then when we get to community comments, each individual can introduce themselves and, what their interests are. Okay, my name is Vicki Handy. I am also on the advisory board. I'm co-chair, and I'm from the Blaine neighborhood.
My name is Todd Olson. I'm a Parks and Rec board member representing Barrington Heights.
Tara?
Tara Wiegand, staff.
John MacArthur, acting interim Parks and Recreation Director.
And on screen, Diana?
Hi, Diana Lavery, Park and Recreation Advisory Board, Tanner Basin.
Also Chris?
Hey, Chris Owens, Parks and Rec Board member from Robinwood neighborhood.
Awesome.
Kevin Bonington, City Council Liaison.
Great. And on our agenda, we'll be joined from with Matt from Department of Fish and Wildlife. So,
Okay, today's agenda. Yeah. Anything we need to add to that, guys?
no, I think this is a very aggressive agenda and I don't know if it's doable. I was hoping we could, finish by 6:30 because for staff and for, us, because we have the concert in the park starting at 6:30. But of course,
We would like to move the budget to
The next
September,
meeting.
or October, actually.
October meeting.
Yeah,
okay,
let's go.
Yes. We're not-
Okay, so we'll get rid of the budget,
all right, very good.
at least
That makes it easy.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's easier.
with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are you okay with it, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
I
Move-
make a move to accept the agenda with the modification of number 7, moving the budget update to October.
Second,
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's good, okay. All right. Community comments?
and summary notes.
Summary notes.
Oh,
I
summary notes,
move to approve.
okay. I thought the summary notes were fine.
So you second,
Yeah, second.
all in
In
favor?
favor?
Very easy.
Good.
We love to get the community comments. So, our community comments, we love to hear from people, love to have so many people here tonight. I want to remind you that, community comments follows a 3-minute rule. I'm looking at our rules, 3-minute rule. And I will actually be just using my phone for timer. And are all of you together or do we have different subjects tonight?
I think we're all here to talk about Outlander. If somebody isn't.
Okay, so is this like a group comment or each individual?
Well, if I can sort of maybe frame it if you want me to start.
Okay. I just want to get a sense of how many people will be presented tonight. 1, Dean, 2.
I'd like that name. Yes.
So we'll just start and why don't we start with, since you're all here regarding Oppenlander, let's do introductions for that. You are.
My name is Liz Darnell, and I am a new resident on Miles Drive. I moved all the way from Virginia to support my husband, who was raised here. And we are just trying to get a handle on what's going on in the community. I do intend to become involved in where I live and in the things that affect where I live. And I'm just here to really observe the happenings of the council meetings and the protocols and things like that.
Okay, great.
And to support my guys on Miles, also Dean and Ted. So.
All right.
And I'm Brian Green, just recently moved, so another resident.
And we're just doing introductions and then we'll start with you. And you are, I know you, I recognize you.
Yeah, I'm Mike Cockerton.
That's right.
I've come to a few meetings.
Yeah.
I'm here again. A few topics I'd like to put on tonight.
Right. And Dean,
Needs her, let's try.
super,
And Ted Nicholson, Miles Drive.
bad.
David Dodds, representing Robin Wood. I'm the Parks, the head of the Parks Committee for the Neighborhood Association.
Okay, and I recognize you too.
Adam Dira, Miles Drive.
Adam, great, good to see you again. All right, so Mike, why don't we start with you?
Thank you. Mike Cockerton. Couple ideas on my mind. One was the process that was, I just started at the place of the process that was discussed a couple meetings prior, that we'd be inventorying the park and we'd be looking at those. I haven't had much luck tracking it on the website, so I'm hoping that sometime maybe at the end of the meeting, someone could help me find that on the website, because I was told I'd be able to track that process on the website. So I'm trying to follow that. Also here, just to listen and to hear what the Parks Board is doing and working on. As well as I'm here to advocate for this Parks Board to address the Oppenlander park potential I've seen sort of a moving target. There was a time when this was approved by the citizens to be purchased. And then it seems to me the purchase did not go through, litigation, lots of public dollars spent on litigation. One could say not utilized for a park, but went to some wealthy attorneys. Anyway, so, and then it went to maybe we could have a smaller park when a previous developer was looking at this parcel. And that was discussed, I know at the council level, certainly. And now I went to a neighborhood meeting where the new proposal was no park. The city wanted nothing to do with the park. And that's the city's position. And I would be more supportive of some type of at least a pocket neighborhood park there, whether it be help funded through system development fees or other budgetary resources. Not to get into all that at this time, but that's what I'm here, and I'm here to advocate for that as well. I always love being first, so thank you.
Always. All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Take the notes.
Let's go to David.
Okay, David.
This is more for him and then you'll have that. If you want me first, I'll be last.
That's what I would have said.
Okay. Did you want to go to me?
Sure.
Okay, all right. David Dodds, RDN, used up which purview I'm here. I recently went to a meeting of the Rosemont Summit Neighborhood Association where the topic was a proposed development of the Oppenlander property. And what I heard there was a lot of residents who were none too happy and would really like to see that the city, the Parks Board, the City Council re-examine some means of trying to get some parkland, even if it is smaller than they originally envisioned. And also there was a tremendous level of concern over the mature stand of trees on the site. And people were very passionate about wanting to save that. And so I said that the natural venue for raising those kind of concerns is with this group. So I mentioned that when you were meeting, and apparently some people were listening because
Right.
they're here. And I would just like to say that I think looking at the proposal that there's a number of things that might be done. I mean, one of the things that was presented by the developer was that, well, that they couldn't do a cul-de-sac. Well, if it means preserving a portion of this property and those trees, then I think that that's something that could be an amendment, because right now they're going to essentially have a stub out into an already developed piece of property that isn't going to develop anytime soon, that essentially functions as a cul-de-sac anyway. The other thing, of course, is that given the number of units, I believe it was 43, it is going to generate a considerable amount of SDC fees for parks on this property. And I would certainly be very supportive of essentially a lot, if not all of that, going to try to preserve something that obviously that neighborhood cares about a great deal, because it was sort of a meeting of a neighborhood association that hasn't met in a long time, and yet the room was packed. And there was almost universal opinion that, can't we make some kind of a deal? Okay. And to close up, when it was presented to the representative of, I think either Venture Development or Venture Homes, he said that he had discerned no interest on the part of the city for pretty much any kind of discussion. And I would like to change that discussion back. And so.
Thank you. And I'll let you get closer to 4. You're going to be better. I'm going to be better.
Well, that's just because you're wonderful.
Thank you, David. I always appreciate your engagement. Adam, Liz, okay, so is it Dean and Ted?
Yeah, I'm Ted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
we'll start with you.
Oh, well, okay, I can do that. I'm 11-year resident on Miles Drive, and I've almost daily been dogs, my grandkids, and those trees are something special. It's almost like if God planted them, whoever planted them, they planted them just right. They're all far enough apart from each other. They don't cross each other. Someone, I mean, and they all, and I'm not an arborist, but they sure look healthy to me. And, you know, every bird you can think of, I've seen through there, because I live in my backyard. I can see them from my backyard. I can take my binoculars out, shoot those birds. See, you know, you pick the bird and I see it, plus the animals that I see, deer to coyotes and skunks. They can stay over there. You name it, and it's just the trees themselves are more like an amenity. And so when you drive by and you see these trees, they're striking, and they're all kind of put together where you can. I can't see why they couldn't. You know, and I've seen some of the traffic patterns here, where they could, you know, move their traffic patterns, and they're kind of already set up where they can be either side of the trees. The trees complement the development. And it's, you know, it's a Westland. To be a Westland development, it would really be sad to see the trees scraped plus no part. That was a big one. I mean, our kids living there, you know, they gotta get some. I mean, I set it front of a car and drive it somewhere. They had just a small park, and those trees, those kids hang out in those trees too, by the way. And so that's my 2 cents on it. And I just like to see what could be done to keep it, or somehow put it together with the developer where everybody comes out whole on the thing, and they wind up in the end really with a development that's got really a greater value to it, more character, I guess, than just flat line kicking everything down. I mean, the prior developer, you know, they were going to do a 3-acre park and keep a lot of the trees, and you know, it's like, gee, I wish it was still a park, but when I saw the other prior development thing, it was okay. You know, a lot of people said, you know, if we're going to do it, and they seem to do it right, and something happened. Exactly happened, and so here we are with venture properties. And that's it.
I appreciate that.
And I would say, Ted, that story is what we heard again and again and again last week.
I mean, sir, I was involved with kind of all of, brought the city and school district back to the table, came to the table, disappeared, came back. I drove the bond measure. I was very active in that process. If we could have a 10-acre park, that'd be awesome. That's not what our ask is. One of the things that we learned through, or I've learned, is that the developer application is a development application. It's not a construction application. And so we have to live next to not just streets, but we live next to the finished product. And so there's a disconnect here that we're trying to resolve. The other thing that I've learned, and I don't know what we'll find here, but with the planning commission, that they just want to see the respectfully, they want to see the finished product. They want to stay neutral. And we're trying to have a conversation with them and likewise with you. This is, well, what are the flexibilities? What, you know, how do you create a step street for a cul-de-sac? And what would that mean if, you know, the street moved over a little bit? The developer wants to work with us. The developer's also saying they want an application that fits a box because they don't want to turn something into or not incomplete, out of compliance. So our ask, or our discovery process here, because there's no specific ask for this except to make you aware at this point. We expect the developer Venture Properties, who again is in communication working with us, to put an application in, a formal application in the next month or so. They've been through two fundamentally different layouts and designs in there. There's property that the park, Populated Fields, is surrounded on 3 sides by developed houses and Rosemount on the south. It's an infill property. Parks are really important to Westland, one of the, which I know because I'm a 30+ year resident, but the SDCs reflect that as well. And the SDC shows water's number 1. I'm into that. when there's enough in the river. And number two is parks, and then there's a gap, and there's all the other things that need to be on. So this development, 43 homes, is going to net somewhere between, and we're not quite sure how the rate's fixed, but $500,000 to maybe almost $750,000 of STCs. And that doesn't mean those go directly back to this development, but we're trying to understand that process and how to request either access to those fees or make a proposal that's arm's length that maybe starts with the board here, or maybe it starts someplace else, and see if some of those funds can be used to offset, this plan here. Sorry, we've got all kinds of things attached, and I shouldn't do that, but this plan is budgeting out, and the developer wants to make money, right? And our people build a house on it, and that's fair, that's reasonable. We know that if trees stay, then less dollars come in. And so there's got to be, finances as part of this as well. So we're on a discovery to figure out how we can work together and navigate this process. And that clock, and our clock is ticking.
And I appreciate that. There's no doubt that the journey, the Oppenlander journey has been disappointing. I think we can all agree that this journey has not been easy. We have Kevin, who is our council member, who is part of our board, the liaison. Kevin, did you have any information regarding what's happening with Oppenlander that you would just, since we have so many people here tonight with interest, that might help provide additional information or perspective?
I would say that I don't have any super recent or new developments to share, but I think one thing that stood out to me is, I was one of those kids who grew up playing in those trees too. I grew up adjacent to that park. I grew up playing t-ball and baseball on that park. So I have my own pretty unique connection to it as well. I think that's probably where I should draw the line in terms of speaking about what's going to be an active application, which I hate doing. I think we all know I like to talk about things I'm not supposed to. But to my knowledge, the developer has never reached out to us. And to my knowledge, I'd have to check on how this was done and who did it and when. They were not responsive to anyone who reached out to them. So we did have a pretty good go with Icon trying to put that together and take that across the finish line. In the end, and this is my personal opinion, my real estate professional opinion, I think the asking price of the land itself makes it very, very challenging for a developer to actually do anything there. I'm not even sure that it's necessarily going to be feasible as a project for that reason. So I think that is proving to be a big sticking point. But I will say that when we were discussing it with Icon, the cost per acre did not actually seem to factor into whether they were willing to do a park or not. So we're kind of where we're at. I'm not of the opinion that we should never talk about it again or completely give up on a neighborhood park if it were possible, but we have had absolutely no communication from that developer on that, to my knowledge.
So
Can I respond to that, just edification? So there was a pre-app meeting. So there's been the conversation between the city, maybe not the city council, but with the city planners and the developer, and a number of us were in attendance. And that was an interactive meeting. And I think that's what we're referring to in that the question was, does the city require a park? And the answer is no, the city doesn't. So this is the kind of the place we're trying to engage. We've got some planning, some roadway issues, planning commission and so on that same basis. So Kevin, we're not trying to get an opinion or put you in a hole or get you, pre-informed or whatever. Our questions truly are about process before something formal is on the table, where we can negotiate with the developer can double check back to the city and so on, and that we can have a more optimized.
Well, I'll just respond if that's okay.
Yeah,
I think all of us would love to keep Oppenlander as a whole park for the city. I spent 20 years taking my kids up there to games and we'd all love to see that. Unfortunately, the property isn't owned by the city. You know, you have a seller and you have a buyer and you have building code. And this body is a part of that discussion. I think the planning commission and the planning department probably are the ones more engaged at this point. I think, you know, from day one, we would love to have a park there, and that's not in question. But at this point, this body, it's not within our circle of control. You know, you have the seller, you have the potential buyer, and then you have the planning commission and who is trying to administer code. I don't think we're in a position to try to say, don't follow code.
Well, and we're not.
No. I absolutely empathize with everything that's being said here tonight. But unless I'm ill-informed, I don't know if this is the body who can really make that happen at this.
No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. You can't make it happen. What you can do is show support and enthusiasm, even at this 11th hour, that because the developer essentially said that they saw no sign from the city, whether it was the planning staff, whoever it was, that they wanted to try to push to make a park happen. I mean, essentially that all the previous history had sort of sapped the enthusiasm for pursuing that. And what, if I had my druthers with this, is if the board could just say, essentially, as the Parks Board, you know, you're not going to negotiate that. That's not in your purview. You can't control that. But what you can do is what you so often do, which is show where the enthusiasm is, show where the support is, and then it's up to the city and the developer and the city council to do with that what they may.
Okay, I think we have a board member with some questions.
So this is, I'm glad you guys all came because this is good. I've been missing some status on that, so I appreciate the updates and for the awareness and doing that. A couple questions. So what is the schedule? I mean, you've engaged with the developer, kind of what's their plan, what's their schedule? You've had some discussions. Are those discussions, are you feeling good about those, that you're going to get there, or?
I can't tell you the exact timeline. They are not exact. But I thought it'd be preliminary to understand that there's not a formal application.
Right.
So being that there's not a formal application, this would be the time to influence the formal application. The planning commission at this point has no real purview. The planning department, which is directed by the city manager, which is directed by the city council, are the ones that give direction to the planning staff on what this could look like and what the opportunities are. So while I don't know the exact time, and I think the formal application would be proposed in the next month.
Okay.
But until then, we can look toward encouraging that. I just want to be clear on the process there, that we are not, but if we wait until it gets in front of the planning commission, I would say most of the decisions have already been made for the developer at the meeting, at the Rosemont Neighborhood Association meeting, and my understanding of the process. Just wanted to sort of clarify.
Oh, no. I totally appreciate that, because oftentimes you get in, it's the hard part, because you're in informal discussions, but yet people have their reserved authority or whatever, that they can't really engage too much, but that you want to encourage things to happen. Right?
And we're not there yet. We're
Yeah.
not at that formal point yet. This is the time. Later, it would be difficult and maybe inappropriate. So this is proactively trying to affect.
And so I know we're watching So what David said about enthusiasm, whatever that looks like, from your perspective. But also, I think this SDC question, none of us know where to go to say, is that even viable there might be some offsetting funds for the developer if we quote, buy a lot back, or whatever that looks like, to make that into a park, or an offset of SDCs so that they can give the city a lot that has half those trees or something. We don't know who to ask. We don't know how that process works. So that's really, I think, my fundamental question right now is process oriented. We're not telling the developer what to do. We want to give them all.
Yeah, and that's hard because I know that the council and staff typically are working off a strategy for the different funding buckets, and that includes SDCs. So, this is unmarked, unintended funds. I don't know how far we'll go with that, but I do think that we can, as a board, consider what type of advice to provide as the application process goes to preserve the trees and livability and, to work with the city. I think that that's reasonable, and it's something that we've always, we will always support that. I think it does sound like there's a little bit of misinformation when our city council, it's like, we've reached out to them and we've received no information from them. And the developer's telling you, well, we reached out to the city and we didn't get an answer. It does feel like there's a little misinformation. And I'm not going to say who's right, who's wrong, but I feel like we're taking one more step in the Uplandlander journey. And so we have been supportive, save the trees and keep the livability as much as possible. And I'm sure we'll continue to say the same. So I also am aware that Matt has been very patient. He's here joining us tonight to do a presentation. And we're past the time that we gave him. So I want to make sure that I respect his time here tonight as well. But I want you to know, I mean, we all hear what you're saying. And I'm glad that you brought it back in scope. We didn't meet in July because of course, we have the grand fair. And so this is an ongoing important issue. So I appreciate you bringing that information.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll
Thanks.
see at the concert.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, let's go to Matt now. I'm so sorry, Matt. Thank you for your patience as we went through community comments.
Yeah, that's an important discussion. I'd originally planned on about a 30-minute presentation and 10 minutes for questions. Sounded like you were trying to end the meeting at 6:30, so maybe I have about 20 minutes total.
What,
Is that accurate?
Your time is really important, and what you have to say. You have a topic here with the emerald ash borer that is very high on our priority list. So, yeah, leaving early is not the first priority. Okay.
Okay, great. I just didn't want to get cut short. So I'm going to share my screen and start my presentation. I appreciate that. I've never used this format before, so hopefully things go well. Are you able to see my screen with a slide that says Manage Emerald Ash Borer on it? All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, again, my name is Matt Mills. I'm an Emerald Ash Borer Support Specialist with the Oregon Department of Forestry in our Urban and Community Forestry Plan. I wish I could say that it's the last time I'm going to say forestry today, but it's not true. It comes up a lot. So what my job is to help communities prepare for emerald ash borer, not only notifying of them when it's nearby, but also helping them develop management plans. We do also do a lot of outreach to even local landowners and homeowners to help them prepare for EAB on their property. So what is emerald ash borer? Emerald ash borer, Argillus plenipennis, or as we're going to call it from now on, EAB, is an invasive and highly destructive wood boring beetle that infests and kills ash trees and its close relatives. which would be olive and white fringe tree. So you don't have to worry about maples or oaks or any evergreen trees being attacked by emerald ash borer. We're really concerned about your ash trees. This is an introduced species that made its way to the United States from Northeast Asia. And there, ash trees co-evolved with emerald ash borer. It is not a killer in Northeast Asia. It's a secondary pest that attacks trees that are already suffering from drought or fire stress or something along those lines. Our North American ash trees and European ash trees have never encountered emerald ash borer before, so they have little to no resistance to it. We know from the East Coast that about 99% of ash trees are going to die because of emerald ash borer. And what this beetle does is the adult beetle will lay its eggs on the outside of an ash tree. That egg will hatch and it will burrow under the bark. And it starts feeding on the nutrient-rich layers that transport sugars from the roots up to the leaves every spring and help that tree grow new leaves. As it's feeding on that nutrient-rich layer, it kind of creates this meandering S-shaped gallery or trail behind it, what it's eaten. And unfortunately, as more and more beetles build up inside of a tree, more and more of that nutrient transporting layer is eaten away. And eventually the tree can no longer grow new leaves or transport energy from the leaves down to the roots for the winter. Tree death can be really rapid, as much as or as few as just 3 to 6 years, depending on overall EAB population density and the tree's health to start with. So it can be very rapid. Do we have a question?
No, we're good.
Okay, I thought I heard one. That's good. Thanks.
No,
So EAB was.
Matt, I'll just say you're preaching to the choir. Our prior director was an arborist and very passionate about the emerald ash borer and the Mediterranean oak borer. So she's prepped us. So we are with you 100%, and this is important. So go ahead.
All right, great. We don't normally encounter communities that are already kind of prepared and ready to hear our message. So sometimes we have to lay some groundwork first.
We're prepared. We're ready. We're just a little bit informed, but that's it.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So if it starts getting too repetitive, just let me know and I'll move on. But EAB was first detected in Detroit, Michigan around 2002. We think it actually had been there sometime, probably since the mid-90s. And this map shows the spread of EAB by county each year. And you can see by probably like 2010, EAB had actually spread quite a bit. Oops, sorry, controls here are a little weird. EAB had actually spread quite a bit throughout the northeastern part of the country. 2013, it popped up in Denver, Colorado. And then, of course, in 2022, we found it out here in Forest Grove. We think it got to Detroit, Michigan area in dunnage or pallets that were made from infested trees in Northeast Asia, and they were shipped this way, possibly with auto parts or really anything. And then it probably made its way to Oregon and infested firewood. Maybe somebody from Missouri or Minnesota was coming out west to do some camping, brought some firewood with them, and also brought the beetle with them. So we've been looking for emerald ash borer in Oregon. Let me step back. So this is Toledo, Ohio in 2006, about 4 years after EAB was found in Detroit, Michigan. Detroit and Toledo are really close neighbors. This is that same street 3 years later. Every single tree on the street died in 3 years because of this beetle. You can see this one tree in the background is still looking all right. It's not an ash tree. It might even be a maple. And this is this same street today, 15 years after EAB was discovered. They had to remove every single tree on the street because ash trees, when they die, get really brittle and dangerous. So it was a public safety hazard. So they had to remove all those trees, which is very costly. And then there is a new canopy growing in, but even 15 years later, it's nowhere like it had been back in 2006. Beautiful street there. All right, so we know emerald ash borer is active in Multnomah and Clackamas counties. We've also found it in Washington, Yamhill, and Marion counties. And this is a map of where we've detected EAB in the state. The pink spots are EAB detections that were made in 2022, 23, 24, and 25. And the green spots are detections you already made this year. So you can see the range of EAB is expanding quite rapidly. Each one of those spots is equal to a mile circle around a known infested tree or even a positive trap. And then the blue circles are a 5-mile radius. And we consider those green circles or pink circles to be highly likely to have EAB inside of them. It just hasn't been detected yet. And those blue circles are where we would expect to see EAB in the next year or two. And here's a close-up on West Lynn. We discovered EAB in Redland out here on the other side of Oregon City, a little over 5 miles away from West Lynn in 2024. Just a single tree that we found it in. And then just earlier this summer, I found EAB at a shopping center in Tualatin. And I talked to the contractor, of 130 ash trees that are on that property, over 90 of them have emerald ash borer in them. And they expect that they're probably going to have to remove almost every single one of those trees. They're probably actually too far gone to be saved. So you guys in West Lynn are right in the middle of 2 infestations. So if you don't have, if EAB at this point hasn't been discovered yet, I would expect you would find it very soon, maybe even next summer. We have a nice map where you can track where we found EAB in Oregon. It's on our website, OregonEAB.com, or you can use that little QR code there in the corner. So EAB is a multi-pronged partnership to help deal with the problem. First is my program, Oregon Department of Forestry. We do most of the communication and outreach around EAB across the state. We help communities like West Lynn develop management plans. We have access to a program called Tree Plotter, where it's a free inventory program. So you can use that software to understand what types of trees are in your community, the overall health, and actually use it to help develop work plans for your different tree needs. We're also heavily involved and we lead the trapping program across the state. We have a lot of partners that help us with this trapping program. This year we have 40 partners helping us set 430 traps across the state. So it's a very robust trapping program. Department of Agriculture is also one of our lead agencies on the fight against EAB. They're responsible for the quarantine, which Clackamas, Multnomah, Marion, Yamhill, and Washington County are all part of. They manage that quarantine and then are responsible for it. We have tiny wasps that have been discovered in Northeast Asia that attack emerald ash borer. Through years of research, we're very confident that those wasps are not going to attack anything but emerald ash borer, and we've been releasing them in the infested counties. And they also help manage the hotline, which is where community members, if they think they've found EAB in their tree or in their favorite park, can take pictures and report that, and then we can follow up on it. We work closely with a lot of local partners. Clackamas Soil and Water Conservation District is one of our best partners across the whole state. They're really on top of things. They help lead some of our different work groups that are tackling some of the different emerald ash borer problems, and they do a lot of outreach in their own community. We also look very closely with federal partners, both the detection and the biocontrol front, as well as Oregon State and Portland State University. So there's a lot of partners that make this whole effort to combat EAB even possible. No one agency can do it on their own. It's kind of the silver lining on EAB. We've got a lot of great teamwork. So ash is a really important tree in Oregon. It can be found in 3 different areas. It's a really popular urban tree because it has some of these species have really beautiful foliage in the fall. It's also a very hardy tree, so it's a popular street tree. It's often found in our riparian ways. It's one of our few tree species that really likes our wet clay soils all winter long, and they thrive in those environments. And then there's what we call the WUI, or the wildland urban interface, and those are those special areas where people are living in a less dense part of our communities, but they're still interacting with nature quite a bit. And that's a unique area where you have to consider human impacts while also dealing with environmental impacts and keeping our environment safe from degradation. Oregon ash, as I was saying, is an important part of our riparian corridors. It likes being wet all winter long. It's perfectly happy having dry roots throughout the summer. So it really thrives in our temporary wetland ecosystems that are flooded, maybe with several feet of water in the winter, and in the summer dry out completely. It is so happy in these environments that it often pushes out other tree species, and you'll frequently see monocultures of ash in these environments. This is a shot on the left side here from Forest Grove, Oregon. This is Carpenter Creek, and you can see where there's been a lot of agricultural activity that has kind of chewed away at the natural environment there, and it's just left this thin strip of ash trees. And these habitats are already at risk because of how kind of thinned out and strained they are. So emerald ash borer moving into this kind of environment is really going to be a huge threat to keeping that water system healthy. Oregon ash is also a very important cultural resource. Traditionally, our native peoples have used it as both a medicine and to build tools such as canoe paddles. Oregon ash is our native ash species. It's our only native species here in Oregon, and it is quite prevalent on the west side here. This is a map showing the ash density in different watersheds throughout Oregon. And as you can see throughout the Willamette Valley, we have high densities of ash up and down the valley. So as EAB starts moving through this area, we can see some really catastrophic effects because of it. So the reason ash is so important in these ecosystems is multifold. Remember that picture I just showed you of the agricultural field kind of eating away at the ash forest? Well, when these crops are fertilized or even chemicals are applied to them to maybe control pests, there's often runoff. And that runoff could make its way to these creeks and streams. But those ash forests are there to act as a buffer. They actually take up a lot of that nitrogen and prevent it from getting into the water sources. These ash trees create a lot of shade on our water systems. They keep that water nice and cool, which is what our salmonoids and our other fish species need to be able to reproduce. If these ash trees, or what I should say, when these ash trees start dying, that shade is not going to be there anymore. Those water systems are going to get a lot hotter, and we can see our fish populations drop because of that. Ash trees are critical for stream-side stabilization. They have really strong root systems, and we get our heavy rains in the fall and the winter. They help prevent those floodwaters from washing away a lot of soil. So when those ash trees start dying, we could see a lot of erosion, a lot of stream bank shifting, and channel just destabilization. They're also a really important part of the nutrient cycle. As the ash trees lose their leaves in the fall, those leaves fall into those streams. Invertebrates feed on the leaves, they start breaking them down, and then larger and larger animals will start feeding on them. They're an important base of our food pyramid in our aquatic systems. One thing we learned from talking to folks on the East Coast that have black ash, which are very similar to our Oregon ash, when they lost their ash forest, they saw their water tables rise 3 to 12 feet in some areas. So just without the ash, we could see flooding just because of that. Oregon ash is a very popular, or sorry, not Oregon ash, but ash species in general are very popular landscape trees. The green and white ash are East Coast native trees. They have really brilliant gold foliage, really popular street tree because of that. The narrowleaf ash or the raywood and the European golden ash are from Europe. All these trees are just as susceptible to EAB as Oregon ash. So this is something we need to watch out for in our communities. As these trees start dying, we run the risk of them possibly falling on cars or people or infrastructure. So that's going to be a big concern for West Linn. These ash trees are also popular because they're a really hardy tree. Typically, there aren't a lot of insects and pests that do a lot of damage to them. They're drought and heat resistant. There aren't a lot of fungal pathogens that attack them. So they've been a really popular street tree in Oregon. And especially in the last 15 to 20 years, we've seen more and more ash planted in our communities. And that's because when EAB started spreading on the East Coast, our nurseries in Oregon could not sell their ash trees out east. Nobody wanted them anymore. So there was a surplus of ash in Oregon, and developers could buy ash trees on 60 cents on the dollar of any other hardwood species. So it was really popular because they were cheaper than anything else. So a lot of our newer developments, schools, housing developments, hospitals, you'll see a lot of ash in them. I kind of covered that already. So what happens inside the tree is really well displayed in this graphic. On this bottom part here, imagine somebody has cut open the bark of the tree and peeled it back so you can see those layers of the tree that I was talking about earlier that transport nutrients. When EAB first arrives, it'll probably be just one single female, maybe 2 or 3, and they're going to lay just a few eggs. A female can lay 40 to 60, maybe up to 150 eggs a time. And that first year, you're not going to really notice a lot of damage. EAB eggs are really successful. Most of them make it to adulthood and they're going to hatch back out. So they have a high reproductive rate. But in the first year, there's not going to be a lot of damage to the tree. The second year, those eggs are going to hatch, the adults are going to mature, and they're going to escape from the tree. 90% of the females that come out of the tree are going to lay their eggs on the very same tree they came out of. Almost 10% will then lay their eggs within 50 meters, and a very, very small percentage, like far less than 1%, will fly off to find a new area to infest. So each year there's an exponential buildup of ash trees or emerald ash borer in your trees. By the time we get to 5 years after an infestation, a single female will have 204 million progeny. Just one single female will have 204 million progeny after 5 years. That's how fast they reproduce. And that's why it's really hard to identify emerald ash borer until it's really becoming a problem. These first couple of years of infestation, nobody really notices that anything's wrong. The trees don't look that bad. The EAB are really hard to identify. They're quite small and you don't see them very often. But by the time we hit years 3 and 4, there are millions of EAB in the environment and the ash trees start to decline very rapidly. So here's a graph showing the number of years after an infestation on the bottom, and then the percent of the ash trees in a community that will die each year. So in the first couple of years of infestation, those EAB populations are really low. There's not a lot of tree death. After about years 4 or 5, a few trees are starting to die, and the EAB are leaving those trees to go find new trees to infest. And this is about where we found emerald ash borer in Forest Grove. We actually found it kind of early on. Where we're at now is years 8 and 9 after infestation, and we see this in Forest Grove where 20% of the ash trees in the community are dying every single year. If you go into Forest Grove right now and drive around, it takes about 1.5 minutes to find a dying or dead ash tree. And this is just a few years after we discovered it. Eventually, we hit a peak where ash trees are no longer dying anymore, and that's just because there aren't any more live ash trees in the environment. They've all been killed by emerald ash borer. Now, we'd like to think that would be the end of the story. There aren't ash trees, so emerald ash borer would go away, right? Ash trees are very hardy trees, and if there's a little bit of the stump alive, they will start sending out new shoots from that stump, and eventually the emerald ash borer are going to find those shoots and start this whole cycle over again. So unfortunately, it's just a continuing wave of ash tree mortality until eventually those root systems have no more energy left to create new branches. Here's another shot. I believe this is outside of Detroit of this dead community. And on the bottom here, this is a natural stand, and all the gray you see in there are dead ash trees. Ash trees are very dangerous trees when they're dead and dying. They hold a lot of moisture in their trunks, but as they die, they lose that moisture and they can start becoming very brittle. Here's a good example we've seen from the East Coast. There are whole ash trees would just fail and fall in a house or someone's car. Emerald ash borer also introduces a fungus as it's attacking the tree that helps break down the tree even quicker. So even though ash trees will start breaking down naturally on their own very quickly, an emerald ash borer killed ash tree will start breaking down even faster. And this can get expensive for communities. Removing a dead ash tree can cost 2 to 3 times as much as removing a healthy or maybe even slightly declined ash tree. And that's because arborists can't climb those trees. It's too dangerous for their staff. So they have to bring in specialized equipment like bucket trucks and cranes to remove these dead ash trees. So it's one reason why it's good to plan ahead. If there are removals that need to be done in your community of your ash trees, try to get them in before they start declining. And as we talked to arborists from the East Coast, they originally started out, they would say if an ash tree was more than 30% dead from emerald ash borer, they didn't want to climb it. A lot of companies went to, if there's any evidence of emerald ash borer, they will not climb it anymore because it was just too dangerous for their staff. We talked about Forest Grove a minute ago and that detection there. These are some pictures from what's called 13th Place on Forest Grove. Every single tree on this 5-block strip was an ash tree. So by the time we had found emerald ash borer in Forest Grove, these trees were too far gone to be saved. And the best choice at that point was to remove them before they started dropping branches on cars and vehicles. We did a lot of work. I personally did a lot of work on the street, monitoring the change on that street due to emerald ash borer. Before the trees came down, it was a really quiet neighborhood. Highway 47 runs right behind it. It's a pretty busy road, but because these ash trees were there, they were blocking a lot of the noise from moving up the road. It was really cool temperatures in that neighborhood. People drove quietly and calmly. It was really a relaxed neighborhood. You could tell the day we brought those ash trees down, it got hotter in the neighborhood. The road noise from the highway got really, really obvious. It got uncomfortable. And we've talked to neighbors that live in that area now, and they say people drive faster down the street. There's something about a well-lined street that people are much more careful how they drive through those neighborhoods. So that's another thing to consider. We did do a program with Friends of Trees to replace those trees. Of the almost 60 trees we brought down, we were able to replant about 55 of them. There were a couple that were too close to like water pipes and things like that, so it wasn't a good site. But we did do a project to replace that neighborhood's trees. Skip that for time. I'm going to skip that one for time too. This is really complicated to explain. So we're really lucky that we have been looking at emerald ash borer on the East Coast for quite some time. The city of Ottawa did a study where they did a cost-benefit analysis. The red line here is number of years after, actually the year after they discovered emerald ash borer. And on here, the percent of their dead ash trees. And the red line was the cost of just dealing with dead trees after they'd already died. They projected what that would cost just to remove the dead trees. And they figured in about 10 years, they would spend almost $12 million just removing dead trees. And they also calculated if they implemented a management plan, which would involve removing trees preemptively, treating some trees, and then removing some trees as they were dying, they could spend that same $12 million, but instead of spending it in a decade, it would take almost 25 years to spend that same $12 million. So they will take that same pot of money, stretch it out over twice as long a period of time, and still save 40% of their ash trees in their community.
When you say treat, what are you referring to?
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but there are really effective pesticides that can protect ash trees for quite some time from emerald ash borer. All right, so we're kind of at the part now where if you haven't already started, West Linn should be developing a plan to how to manage their ash trees. We like to tell communities that it's very similar to fire response, a ready, set, go. When EAB is about 25 miles or more away, that's the time to start teaching staff in your community the signs and symptoms of EAB, learn how to identify an ash tree, learn how to identify an infestation, and learning how to report it. At that point, your community should also be doing an inventory of what ash trees are on city-managed properties, your parks, your right-of-way, your schools, your libraries, all sorts of things. And that's the time to start looking at other communities' management plans and seeing what aspects you like. When EAB is about 10 to 25 miles away, that's when you want to start working with your local partners like your soil and water conservation districts. Other municipalities are going to be in the same situation you are. You might also want to start looking at what you're going to do with all that dead wood. We know from the East Coast that once EAB really started to hit, they couldn't give away ash chips at that point because nobody wanted them because there were so many dead ash trees around. So having a plan for what you're going to do with all that dead wood material is really valuable. There are still some communities on the East Coast that just have piles of dead ash trees that they can't do anything with. And at this point, they're so rotten that nobody wants them for anything. And they're going to have to manage this pile of dead wood for decades. And then when EAB is about 5 to 10 miles away, which is unfortunately where we're at today with West Linn, that's when you want to do a lot of training and outreach to your community, make sure that they understand the risks of not treating ash trees and not managing your ash trees, really have a solid wood utilization plan, And if you have the budget for it, now's the time to start doing your treatments, your preemptive removals, and your replantings of different different species than ash. So unfortunately, we are at the go stage with West Linn. And it's time to implement your plan. We've got some great options for you to help you kind of research what to do with the plan. The first off is the Oregon Emerald Ash Borer Readiness and Response Plan. Chapter 4 has a section in it that's specifically about managing ash trees in urban environments. Creates a nice kind of baseline for what kind of activities West Linn should be taking. And then on our website, OregonEAB.com, we have this. We also have management plans from Portland and Kaiser, Vancouver, and several East Coast cities that you can take a look of and use as for inspiration for your own plan. And we are working with a lot of other communities in Oregon to help them develop their management plans. And as soon as those are finalized, we'll be adding those to our website as well. So there's some really good examples of what to do and how to create a plan. And our team here at ODF can help you with that as well. One thing we want to do right away is, if you have control of any kind of tree planting list, is to remove ash, all ash species, all fractionous species, remove them all from your tree planting lists. You don't want homeowners or small land managers planting ash trees, which are just going to be food for the emerald ash borer. You really want to encourage them to plant literally any other tree species, because that's not going to be susceptible to emerald ash borer. And now would be a great time to also work with your Parks Department and your local watershed councils on that same messaging that we shouldn't be planting ash. We need to look at alternatives to ash. We talked a little bit before about Tree Plotter. Tree Plotter is free inventory software that is managed by the Oregon Department of Forestry, my program, Urban Community Forestry. This is available to every community in Oregon. It is a free tool that allows you to create an inventory of all the trees in your community. Not necessarily ash. You could start with ash, but over time you can add more species, or if you have the funds or community interest, you can just start with a full tree inventory. The nice thing about this tool is that information can then be used to create a canopy assessment of your community and help you identify where you might have neighborhoods that maybe don't really have enough trees to have those great health benefits that we know trees provide us, or areas where you have a lot of ash and you really need to allocate funds to lessen the effects of all those ash trees dying. So when we talk about a treatment plan, there are three basic things to consider. I'm sorry about that. There are three basic options for dealing with ash trees. The first is removal and replacement. Small trees under 6 inches, trees that are maybe not in good health already. Maybe they're already, maybe they're hit by a car early in their life and they just have really poor form, or maybe they were planted in the wrong spot and they're just not getting enough water and they're already struggling. Those kind of trees aren't worth saving. Those are the trees you want to remove and replace before emerald ash borer arrives, and then replace them with a variety of different tree species. You don't want to replace all your ash trees with just maple, because down the road we might have some pest that's attacking maple and you're going to be in the same boat. You want to replace ash trees with a wide variety of different tree species that are climate appropriate. And one thing we also like to consider as we're talking about replacement trees is, what is our environment going to look like in 50 years? Climate models project that we could have the same environment as Sacramento, and a lot of the trees we plant now aren't going to do well in that environment. So plan for the future as you're thinking about what kind of trees to replace with. The next option for ash trees is treatment. There are different types of and different chemicals that can be used to protect trees from emerald ash borer. Some of these chemicals are just sprayed on the trunk. Some are actually poured into the ground and taken up through the roots. And the most effective method, and what we call the gold standard for EAB treatment, is called a trunk injection of emamectin benzoate. We recommend that these treatments start when EAB is about 10 to 15 miles away. So unfortunately, West Linn is in that area where, if you have the resources, you should be starting to protect your most valuable ash trees. You'll want to work with an arborist and a licensed pesticide applicator to do these treatments. If done improperly, they can actually damage the tree, or if not enough chemical is put in the tree in the right manner, it cannot be successful. It won't protect the tree and you've wasted funds. Depending on what type of treatment you use, you'll need to repeat this every year. The nice thing about the trunk injection of emamectin benzoate, that one is very effective for 2 to 3 years at a time. So there are applicators in the Portland metro area that are already doing these trunk injections. We know City of Portland, City of Tualatin, City of Beaverton, Hillsborough, they've already been proactively treating their trees. And I believe Oregon City is planning on doing that very soon as well. These are for your highest value trees, though. You're not going to be able to treat every tree in your community. It's just not financially feasible. And especially in your natural areas, there are probably way too many ash trees where you can treat every single one. But you can select your best, highest quality trees that provide a lot of shade or have a lot of community value and treat those ones to protect them from emerald ash borer. Treatment can be cost effective. Studies have shown you can treat an ash tree for 20 years, the same cost it would be to remove and replace it. So those higher value ash trees that are providing a lot of shade, those are the ones you're going to want to hold on to and provide a lot of community benefit. The third option is to do nothing. And in an urban setting, this really isn't an option because, as we talked about before, ash trees become very brittle as they die, and the risk to your community is just too high. But in your natural areas, if you've got parks where there isn't a lot of activity or there aren't really trails, it's more of just a natural area that people aren't interacting with much, you can do nothing in those areas. But just recognize that those trees are going to die pretty rapidly. And then once those trees die, we're going to have those same consequences we talked about earlier with water channels changing, possible increased flooding. As those ash trees die, things like blackberry and reed canary grass love to grow in those dead forests. So you're going to have a lot more weed pests to manage as well. There is a quarantine on ash material in, unfortunately, Multnomah County is not on this map. This must be an old slide. Sorry about that. In Washington, Marion, Clackamas, Multnomah, and Yamhill counties. And this is created by the Department of Agriculture. So as you're working with your contractors, if they're starting to remove some of these ash trees, they need to be aware of this quarantine. All ash material, aside from leaves and stems, can harbor emerald ash borer. So it's the quarantine prevents the movement of these materials outside of the quarantine zone. There are some ways around it with approval from the Department of Agriculture. One of those would be chipping that wood material to smaller than 1 inch by 1 inch in any two directions. At that point, the chip is so small that the emerald ash borer can't survive in it, and then we're really confident that it's not going to be spread further. And there are some good recommendations on when to work on ash trees. Adults can be active from beginning of May through the end of September. So we really don't want to work on ash trees during that period because the possibility of accidentally moving the adults, let's say they like to get under the collars of people's shirts. Your arborist is working on an ash tree in the middle of summer. They don't realize an emerald ash borer has gotten under their collar. They drive out to their home in Gresham. They brought emerald ash borer to Gresham. So there's it's not a rule, but it is a guideline that ash trees are not worked on throughout the summer just to slow the spread of emerald ash borer. And then 3 takeaways we like to have for every community is don't move firewood around. That's probably how emerald ash borer got to Oregon. We really don't want to see somebody from Forest Grove deciding they want to go camping out in Oak Ridge this summer and moving firewood from an infested area out to Oak Ridge. So one of our key communication points, don't move firewood, and that we should really be buying firewood or harvesting firewood within about 10 miles of where we're planning on burning it. And that's not just because of emerald ash borer. There are lots of beetle and pest species that are transported in firewood, and we really want to protect our forests, especially with these higher fire years. We want to make sure our community is aware of emerald ash borer and they know the signs and symptoms and where to report it. And then what your city, one thing you really want to communicate to your community is what your city is doing to protect their constituents from emerald ash borer. A lot of communities are making plans, but they're not sharing that information with their community. So the community is unaware of this threat and the great amount of work that is being done. All right, I know we're a little over time, and I want to make sure you've got time for questions. So now's your chance if you've got anything you want to ask her.
Matt, excellent presentation. I'm glad that we have this recorded for our future use.
Yeah, and I can convert this to a PDF and send it to you as well. I did skip a few slides just for brevity, and I know you've got things to do as well, but I'll send this to you as a PDF version.
Are there any funds or grants available to assist small communities with like West Lynn in
Not
being proactive?
Not at the moment. When EAB was first discovered in Forest Grove, the state legislature provided some funds for the immediate response to that, but those funds have long since expired. So there's no funding directly available from ODA or ODF right now. But keep an eye on the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board. They often have grants are available to help protect watersheds, and I know they've been able to provide grants to some communities to manage their ash population. The DLCD, which I always butcher what it is, but it's the Department of Land and Conservation Development. They cyclically have grants available. They don't currently have any. They're waiting for the legislature to kind of like refill their pot of grant money. Another good one might be your Soil and Water Conservation District. So West Multnomah SWCD sometimes has grants available as well. And those are probably going to be your three main sources for grants right now. There is also the Clackamas County Emergency Management Board, and they are actually putting together a proposal to go to legislature and ask for funding specifically for EAB response. So if that's something you're interested in joining, I can help you connect your Parks Board with that group, and you can sign on to that proposal.
What do you recommend our next step following this presentation to be?
Do you already have a tree inventory of the publicly owned trees in Westland?
No, we don't. And I met with Lake Oswego with Caleb over there, and they ended up doing an inventory of all their ash trees up there. They said that about 1,500. They ended up identifying 1,300. They brought in a couple interns to help. It took like 12 to 16 weeks to do that. And then they mapped each one with, on the GIS through the app that you were talking about, Matt, which is, I think would be nice for the board to recommend, like Matt come to city council, talk about, we're within 5 miles away from coming into the community here to get ahead of it and do an inventory. That would be really helpful. The other thing that Lake Oswego is doing is they're setting money aside to start the work now. So they put $500,000 set aside to start addressing the ash trees, and they'll be doing that with their next year's budget. So I think now's the time to get, Matt, Kevin, if that's, I think it would be really good to council to hear about this, because we need to go in there. Corvallis, they ended up doing an Emerald Ash Borer STCP to be able to address it. It's a big number, and so it's staring us right in the face here. We need to get a management plan and inventory put in place, the way we're going to manage it going forward. And the sooner I think we can get that to council and start talking about that a bit, and outreach to the community too.
The first step is your inventory, because that's going to really help you understand how many ash trees, their overall health and quality, and you can start putting those in the buckets, whether you're going to decide to like remove and replace a certain amount. Start treating the key trees you really care about, and then which trees maybe in a natural area you really can't afford to just let die and deal with later. And the thing about treatment is you don't have to do it forever. So you might decide in the end, you're going to save 20% of your ash trees, but you don't really have the budget to remove and replace 80% of them right now. You can treat some of those ash trees for a couple cycles for like 3 to 6 years, or maybe even 9 years. And that'll kind of like keep those trees healthy until you're ready to remove and replace them. A lot of things people don't realize is when you plant new trees, it takes at least 3 years of active management. That means watering them and pruning them to get to the point where they're going to be able to survive on their own. So if you start removing all your ash trees now, you're going to get to the point where you just have way too many ash trees, or way too many newly planted trees you're trying to keep healthy for your staff to be able to keep up on. So the treatment can be used as a bit of a crutch till you get to the point where your initial batch of trees are established, and now you're ready to move on to the next batch of trees to remove and replace.
So what I'm hearing you say is, make an advisory to city council. I agree to schedule the same presentation. I know your time is important, Matt. That is pretty critical. And then follow with an immediate moratorium on planting ash trees in the city, followed by a plan and funding and staff to manage inventorying trees, then treating maybe up to 20% of trees to keep the critical trees healthy, And then also replace ash in critical areas, maybe like our riparian zones. Sounds like one of our most critical areas. And critical. That slide was very powerfully persuasive that we need to do something proactively to protect. We have Tualatin Willamette River right here.
Yeah.
We need to do something.
Oh, I didn't realize you were on the Tualatin. Tualatin SWCD has what they call a tree. It's called the Tree Grant, TREE grant. And that's for larger projects that are protecting habitat along the Tualatin River. Unfortunately, the application cycle for it ends on Friday, but next year would be a good opportunity for you.
It ends tomorrow.
Friday. Yeah, I guess tomorrow. Yeah.
It's Thursday.
Who is it through?
It's the Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District. It's their tree grants. So if you go to their website and look at their grant program, they really highlight the tree grant program, and it's for larger projects.
Grants in a short period of time, but
Not there.
I don't think.
We need inventory first.
A 10-hour.
It's an annual. It's an annual grant, so it's an option for you next year.
Yeah, we have lots on, and then like I said, replace ash in critical areas such as riparian. And then it sounds like we really need to look at removing, start thinking about how we're going to remove and deal with the ash debris.
Yes.
Did I hear your recommendations? Did I get the key points there?
Yeah, for the most part, I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, those are kind of the highlights there. But also, you're probably going to want to be moving and replacing your low quality ash trees, even in your urban zones. Just real quick, are the right of way trees in West Wind, are they city managed or are they homeowner managed?
We have a combination. Yeah. So we have street trees, from our right of ways, and then, the homeowners take care of their own.
But our river banks are
And river banks, and then we got a lot of open space for these storm drain and water streams that we have in here. So we got a large floater just on what the size of that.
All right. Your time is so valuable, and this is so really the best presentation I've seen on this topic.
Thank you.
Are you available if we suggest that we make a pretty significant time at a city council to
Yeah, definitely. We're happy to do that. We like to do what we call the big scary presentation. This one wasn't the scary one. There's much scarier ones that really get people's attention, especially when we start talking about budgets and how expensive this can get rapidly. So yeah, we'd be happy to do that, and we understand that those time blocks and those city council meetings can often be shorter, so we can do it kind of a quick one, but still scary.
Appreciate it. I'm filled with questions, but I'm also respectful of Matt's time here. Board thoughts?
This was great, Matt. Thank you. Very informative. Yeah, I think, Tualatin, Willamette, the riparian zones that we have going down through neighborhoods, those are going to be key. That brings awareness. So as I'm out walking around like, oh, there we go. I think the inventory would one, love just the awareness.
Yeah.
Expanding that awareness to the council. So I think we should figure out some way
Oh,
to support
communication.
that.
Communication.
Yeah.
Zero, a communication plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some really good examples of management plans on our website. Portland's and Salem's are pretty lengthy, kind of a lot to digest. But Vancouver has like a 10-page management plan. That's a really good kind of introduction. And it sounds like you're already in conversation with Lake Oswego. Oh, they haven't published their plan. We know it's a good plan. We helped them develop it a bit. So that'd be a really good one for you to kind of peruse and kind of build your plan off of as well.
Anybody else on board?
I'll just
Yeah.
note that council is definitely aware of this, but we haven't had an update, I think, in like a year. So would be probably willing to move forward and take some steps on it quickly.
Absolutely. Okay.
Cool.
Matt, I'm sure that you'll be hearing from West Lynn in the near future.
Good.
Was very persuasive and a good call to action.
Great. Well, thanks a lot. I just want to let you know we do have one more round of trap checks that it's going to be happening in September. So keep an eye on that web map I shared with you. And if we find EAB closer to West Lynn than it currently is, I'll be reaching out and letting you know where we found it. But that map is really accurate and tracks where we know EAB to be.
And can we get a copy of your deck?
Yeah, I will convert it to a PDF and send it to you in the morning.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm really glad to see you're being proactive. Sometimes we do these presentations and people are like, okay, we can't afford to do anything, which is actually the most expensive option.
Not yet, but we're gonna be proactive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Should we draft an advisory? Let's, Parks and Rec Advisory Board advises City Council to schedule the Emerald Ash Borer presentation with Matt and prioritize, to look at prioritizing staff resources and funding, leading to a communication plan, immediate moratorium on planting ash trees, inventory, et cetera.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
That's something, I'll go ahead and offer that up. Does anybody want to second that?
Sure, I'll do it.
All right, all in favor of this advisory?
Sure.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Matt.
There you go, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin, I'll draft this up and send it out no later than next week. Okay? Great.
That's good.
I do too. Awesome. Okay.
And I appreciate you spending some time with LACO.
Yeah.
And getting Matt here to do this.
Yeah.
That's good.
And we really are benefiting, Megan, our previous director as an arborist, this was a huge passion and concern for her. And, she's already built the sense of urgency with us. I think this was just the right information to push us into action. It's just perfectly timed, Matt. That's great.
Great. Well, I was happy to join you. And like I said, happy to join a council meeting as well and be scary for you.
We have, it is 10 minutes to 7.
Adjourn or
And we have a whole bunch of other agenda items. We can put in the time and forget about the concert, or I know that you sent the lease agreement out.
Yeah, and
Can
I
you
got
just share that?
feedback from everyone, so I really appreciate that. That's that data. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
You can jump off.
Yeah.
I appreciate your information on your input on that.
I'm waiting for any
No,
additional.
appreciate the feedback. Talk to the board here, so appreciate that input there.
Okay. And then.
So quick question. So what is the next step?
Yeah.
Next step, we'll continue
Right.
to negotiate
Okay.
with ODF.
Okay.
ODS are not,
State.
that's state with.
Right, It's okay.
And you're the one that's negotiating.
Yes, we're negotiating with them. We'll be probably meeting with them later this month, so we start the next round of negotiation.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And
We're confident that you do a good job.
Thank you.
our city attorney is
Okay,
involved in
yeah,
this.
yeah.
I think that, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but my biggest interest, I know others are going to be looking at maintenance and other things, but Mediterranean oak borer and the emerald ash borer are my biggest interest, that it's spelled out. Who is going to be handling that risk mitigation? I think that has a huge liability with it, and it needs to be really spelled out.
Couldn't agree more.
That's my number one interest, that gets.
Really underneath that canopy inside there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got the landslides and other issues there too, so.
Okay.
I appreciate the board.
And what do you guys think? Do you want to quickly go through this, or do you want to put a pin in it and come back and?
Whatever works for you. Councilor Bonington might have just just an update. I can send that message out that you sent to the Parks Board if you want.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it can be super quick.
City Council,
Um,
feedback, information. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just basically say that regarding Heron Creek, which everyone seemed rightfully concerned with 2 months ago, there's been communication between Westland Police and Clackamas ESD, as well as the school district, a little bit on that. The police feel a lot better about it now. I don't know that that means it's all fine. That's not what I'm saying, but my understanding is they feel a lot better about it. So at this point, it's kind of what we were already going to have to do because we didn't have any heads up, which is wait and kind of see how it goes. But I'm not as alarmed, put it that way. What I am alarmed about, though, if you guys have driven anywhere near 205 and 43 in the last decade, you may have seen this ODOT bridge project going on. Well, there have been some neighbors down on Grove Street and on Hawley Street who have been, frankly, suffering. There's been a lot of issues with the way ODOT prepared and then isn't following their own project rules and procedures, and then the way they are addressing these residents' concerns when they're contacted. I won't go too far into that, but some of the recent work led me to have a spidey sense that maybe it was worth visiting McLean House, because McLean House is right next to that, just like their homes are. So I don't know if you can show the pictures to them in the room there, but what I found was kind of alarming. This was just yesterday. I went down there with our facilities manager, and we discovered there is absolutely evidence of damage from this project. And in fact, I'm very worried about the chimney. So this is 24-hour-old news, but yeah, kind of unhappy about that, because McLean House is one of our facilities. It's under parks. It's important. So.
Yeah, I might have to. Might take a hot minute. I'm gonna have to send them out separately. Can I send
Yeah,
that
that's
to?
fine. Probably send it out. Yeah.
So what happened to the chimney? Did it get hit?
It did not get hit. It is actually in a crawl space is where I found that the bricks had kind of separated. It's pretty clear that the land has fractured a little bit because the chimney has pulled to the north, the northeast, and you can see kind of this stair step 45-degree crack in the masonry. That's really significant, and it also goes down to the first floor ceiling, and then it's in the walls on the second story. It broke a mirror just completely fell and shattered, and then it's visible from the outside and the attic. It's enough to be concerning among all the other broken windows in that house now that weren't there. I know for a fact.
Wow, okay. So, it sounds like you feel strongly about this. Are you taking this to council to discuss?
Yeah, council's aware of the ODOT issue with the neighbors, but I have not. I just made everyone aware of what I found. I think we'll probably discuss it at our next meeting, but we were already making some efforts to bring ODOT in and make them answer questions because it's just completely unacceptable. They're not being good community partners at all, and this project is becoming a very big problem for the people who live here. So I'm not gonna let this one slide.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. I'm gonna need it, but.
Any other information, feedback, or direction from city council?
I don't think so right now.
Okay.
Keep it
While
brief.
you're here, I just want to publicly acknowledge our old time Westland Fair, with diminished staff, huge effort, You have some on maternity leave. We didn't have, full-time director. I went down there and I know Tara was working so hard. I was like, should I offer to replace her? I mean, it was pretty insane what you guys were able to accomplish with not only an already limited staff, but then a further diminished staff with absences. So I just, want to share, Kevin, make sure that we're sharing that recognition of a really profound effort and success. Unbelievable that you pulled it off again.
Great weekend. We were in it.
Yeah, it was. It was really, really nice. You guys were awesome. You guys were awesome. Okay. Are there any other items on our agenda? It's 7:00 that we need to discuss tonight, or should we push it to September?
I think we could push it through.
Yes.
Oh, the board members have anything to comment on the.
Nothing that can't wait till September. I had some stuff, but nothing urgent.
Good enough.
Chris, do you have anything, or Diana? Nope.
Nothing for me. Real quick, I just want to send my thanks for the debris removal at Cedar Oak Boat Ramp. That neighbor that told me about it, I guess he was the first one to bring it up, but apparently there'd been a number of boats that had prop strikes. So that was really heartwarming to see such a quick response from the city on that.
Yeah, we sent 3 divers down in there. And
Yeah.
I think it was 14. In the phone.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And the water levels come down.
Yeah, and then they hit up.
Yeah.
And then it just,
I mean, things are so dry. I mean, the water level is significantly lower than
got some water.
it's been in like forever.
Yeah.
We were lucky to get someone out there that quick.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really
Jim
good.
and
Yeah.
Tim,
So thank you.
So, yeah. Good recognition. Thanks for bringing that kind of stuff up. Yeah, because we're not out there all the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Tonight, we had 2 really important topics, Oppenlander and our friendly Beatles. We have an advisory coming out of this and pushing everything else to September.
I think too, if you could come maybe to the council meeting when we do that,
Absolutely.
I think we were thinking, I'll talk with the city reporter, if it was the first or something, or even if we could even maybe do maybe even a work session with them on.
I think that
Or it might be helpful.
it probably should be
It's separate.
a work session. I was going to ask you, I did have it on my calendar, that there's a city council on September 1st at 1 PM that you wanted me to come
Yeah,
to.
let me talk to Matt tomorrow and see what days he can, his schedule is, and we'll look at if September 1st work. Or if we want to do, maybe we can even do like a joint city council work session. And
Yeah.
have Matt present and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be gone a little bit of September, a little
Okay.
bit of October, but I think.
I think we can get it in there, even if you're not there, John, we have a co-chair, we could have I think it'd be helpful to have the board there and talk with. city
I
council.
agree. I think we should all be there if we can.
Yeah, okay,
All right.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next meeting, September 10.
Yep. Okay. We're done. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Boy, Matt's
Thanks for your
presentation
time,
was
guys.
really.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Wonderful meeting.
Yeah.
Very
no,
informative.
Wasn't that fascinating?